I've made my decision. I've selected a nominee who is widely recognized not only as one of America's sharpest legal minds, but someone who brings to his work a spirit of decency, modesty, integrity, even-handedness, and excellence.
Welcome to Opinion Journal. I'm Merrick. Kissel. That was President Obama announcing his nominee to replace the late Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court. David Rivkin, one of the country's most preeminent constitutional scholars and a partner at Baker Hostetler in Washington, joins the show. David, should this nomination have been made at all in an election year?
It should not, Mary, and it's not something that is dependent upon the qualifications of individual nominee. The problem is this, the Supreme Court that has uniquely brittle legitimacy, being a kind of majoritarian institution, is already viewed skeptically by majority of American public. Its approval ratings in the mid-40s. Having an ugly confirmation battle in the middle of extremely poisonous presidential contest is only going to reinforce this impression and deliver a body blow at the institutional legitimacy of a court. Let me make one point. The progressives, actually, who depend so much on the court, they view as an engine of social, political, cultural change, should be actually more concerned about it than conservatives. Because if a court loses beyond a certain point, and I cannot tell you mathematically what it is, it's institutional legitimacy, we're all going to be the losers, but particularly the progressives, because the court has neither the person of a sword, to paraphrase a famous statement by Hamilton, and depends on the perceived legitimacy of its actions.
Is the Senate required to hold confirmation hearings? What exactly is that body required to do when it gives, quote, advice and consent?
Mary, absolutely nothing. It has a right to go forward and consider a nomination and give advice or consent or reject it, and has a right not to do it. And ironically enough, a number of Democrats, including the minority leader, Mr. Reid, have articulated that position previously. Then the shoe, so to speak, was now afoot. But I mean, forget about who said what in the past. It's absolutely clear. There's no requirement to move the nomination forward.
Is there anything about the judge's record that we should be aware of, taking into account your larger point that it's the institutional legitimacy of the court that's at risk here?
A couple of points. He's a very intelligent man and, frankly, an excellent judge. He's also a liberal judge. He's not an originalist like late Justice Scalia. The two things that concern me, he has been basically rubber stamping, as is the case with many liberals in the D.C. Circuit, every decision of administrative state. It is a particularly dangerous tendency, especially after 7+ years of Obama administration, because we had executive branch on steroids. And I'm frankly worried that Obama's successors are going to follow that. So that's one issue. The second issue has been quite hostile to Second Amendment. That's sort of the only ideological predilection I can discern in his opinions. In fact, he dissented from a denial of en banc, which is a fancy word to describe consideration by the full court, in a case that involved the panel rejection by the D.C. Circuit of a D.C. handgun ban. And Mary, that was the case where the panel decision was upheld by the Supreme Court in a case called Heller, which, as you know, was the way of one of the two cases that would be in McDonald that sort of revitalized in the modern era the Second Amendment.
Well, for viewers who want to learn more about the president's regulatory state that David just referenced, I would refer you to Bill McGurn's Main Street column this week. Bill was on the show earlier to talk about it. David Rivkin, thanks for joining the show.
Good to be with you as always.